No problem. So basically, what I went through was I had really, really bad periods. And like the way that my period is that. Oh, I thought that was a lever. I'm not allowed back in here. Oh yeah, I am. So I had really bad periods, and by like bad periods, I mean like when I'm on my period, I used to. I say used to because I don't know if it's changed now, but I'll just as use past tense as an example that for the time being because I've had surgery since. My periods were like so bad that I would. Oh my god! Hang on a minute. My periods were so bad that I was like fainting. I was going deaf, like blind, like it was the whole thing. It was really crazy. I was feeling sick. Like I was so sick that I felt like I couldn't even drink water. Like I just felt like nothing was working for me at all. I have to take the day off. I just take painkillers and then go to sleep and just hope that it goes away. And so it was kind of like sometimes it's worse and sometimes it isn't. But I was like, this is crazy. And then I tell people, be like, oh yeah, I have my periods have had. Now everyone else would be like, yeah, me too. And so we'd just be like, cool, bad periods, whatever. Anyway, interesting. And so I was like, well, I don't know. And then it got to the point where this kept happening every single month. And Ghost was like, you really need to go see someone about that. Yeah, it really was debilitating. Ghost was like, you need to see someone about this because he was like, it's just not right. And it was kind of like affecting things. So as an example, when I was in New York for the Play On trip on the Thursday, which was the final day there, it hit me. And I was like shaking. I had to like, Cassie took me downstairs because Ghost had to go do something, I think, because we had planned something. And so I was in the hotel room and I thought I was going to be fine. But then I realized that when I was in there, I didn't have any. Can I have that back? I'm just going to check if I need to kill this monkey. And so it's just really debilitating. Anyway, and like, so she came with me to go get paracetamol and stuff. And then like, I was like laid there and I was like, this is just ruining everything. So then I went to go get a, monkey tries to make off with the key. Bad monkey, die. That's the instructions. And so I was like, damn, like this is really bad. Anyway, went to go have an investigation. And I had ultrasound. Another thing to point out is my mum had fibroids really bad, and so she had to make sure that I've always wanted to make sure that I keep on top of it just in case, because obviously I know that there could be something inherited there. So that's why I was like, I'm going to keep on top of it. Anyway, so I had a ultrasound. Ultrasounds are not scary if you have not had one before. Basically, all they do is you have to drink loads of water in the morning to be so full, and then they put like this like cold jelly, and then they rub that on you, and then they also probe you. Anyway, it felt like E.T.'s finger, but it was gross. Anyway, whatever. And TMI. And so they didn't find anything with that, but they did tell me that I had varicose veins in my uterus, which was a bit which could lead to some pelvic discomfort, but it's nothing major. And I was like, okay, cool, nice. Anyway, whatever. And then my doctor was like, I will have a more investigation. Oh my god, no, I'm in the swamp. My doctor was like, more investigation needed, blah, 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 blah. I then had I had to fight with them for a while, to be honest with you, because they kept saying that I just needed to have a hysterectomy. And I was like, I'm not having a hysterectomy. I'm way too young to have a hysterectomy. That's ridiculous. And I was like, well, no, because I don't know if I'm going to have kids or not. I don't know if I want them. And they were like, we'll just have kids and then have a hysterectomy. And they were like, go on birth control then. I don't want to go on birth control because I've been on birth control before. Am I dying? Oh my god. I don't want to go on, but I've been on birth control before. It didn't work out for me. My mood swings. I was a completely different person. And it's not the solution, in my opinion. Like, it's like putting a plaster over a really open. Hello? It's like putting a plaster over a really open wound. It wasn't the solution. I was like, I know something's wrong. Anyway, so I was like, something's going on, blah, blah, blah. The periods are heavy, but I wouldn't necessarily say, like, they're not as heavy as what I've seen some other women have. But they wanted to put me on blood thickeners, and I didn't want to go on the blood thickeners. But they tried to put me on blood thickeners, and I know this is not right, but I let him prescribe them to me, and then I didn't take them. And the reason why was because he was like, "Oh, because you travel a lot, just make sure you move your legs around a lot." I was like, I sit quite still in a lot of cases for streaming, for many hours, and my grandma died from a stroke, so I was like, I don't want to be on blood thickness. Like I could probably put myself at more risk, so I refused to take them. I was like, I'm not taking these anyway. And then investigation, anyway, whatever. And then they just kept coming back and saying that I just needed to have a hysterectomy. And my doctor got so angry that he referred me somewhere else. They spoke to me and they deduced it might be endometriosis. So endometriosis is when you have, so when you have this is your uterus, right? When you have a period, all the walls grow so that when you conceive, the egg can bury itself like in the wall and be like, soft and cute for the next 9 months. And then because you don't have a child, your body's like, how dare you? And then it goes like, nah! And then like obviously all of that lining leaves, and that's your period, right? But when you have endometriosis, it grows on the inside and on the outside. So the same tissue that grows here, and it can also grow on other organs too. So it can grow on the outside of your intestines. In some cases, it's been found on women's lungs, which is like crazy. That's really rare. I know one case where the endometriosis was so bad on one woman that it folded one of her ovaries over, which was crazy. Anyway, and so it grows, and then what happens is, obviously this sheds during a period. This also sheds during a period, but it's got nowhere to go because it's not leaving your body. So it builds up as scar tissue. And scar tissue tends to sit really, really tight. So then what happens is it builds up over time like this. Scar tissue then becomes quite painful the more that you have. Excuse me, I feel like I'm going to burp. I'm not. Anyway, it becomes more painful. And so with endometriosis surgery, when they did keyhole surgery on me, what they did was they went to go find out if I did have endometriosis. And if I did, then they would remove it then and there if it was mild enough. So there's different cases. So I think it's called a laparoscopy, which is basically keyhole surgery. They could find out if I had endometriosis by doing an MRI, but they can't 100% guarantee that they're going to find that information out, because the MRI isn't always successful in finding it. But they'd know 100% if they obviously shoved a camera inside there and had luck. But because obviously they do that. But if it was going to be really, really hard there, and there was going to be a lot, then they would, at a complicated surgery, they would have had to remove the camera then and there. Or not that they're going to leave it in, but like they'd have to take it out and then refer me somewhere else to an endometriosis specialist clinic. But luckily it didn't come to that. So they what they do is they cut away the extra tissue. So now essentially what's happened is the outside of my uterus has been cut. All that scar tissue has been chopped off. And because endometriosis is classified as a disease, that is going to still grow. That's still going to happen. It just means that I'm probably going to have 4 to 5 years of not being like, I'm not having the worst periods of my life and feeling like I'm giving birth to Satan's godchildren and all of his grandchildren at the same time. And I'm not spawning the next devil, and I'm going to be accused of worshipping Satan, and I'm going to be the Virgin Mary, but the opposite for Satan, because a demon has crawled out of my uterus because I'm in that level of pain. In reality, what's going to happen is I'm going to probably be okay for the next few years, but because it's classified as a disease, it will come back and I would likely have to have that surgery again. But with endometriosis, there's other things that you can do apparently to try to alleviate the pain. There's something called MyUV, and what that does is you can put it on your lower abdomen. And it goes on there like a heating pad. So heating pads, we all know, is like, use a hot water bottle and it helps because it relaxes the muscles. Because essentially what happens when you have a period is like when you get cramps, it's because you're like contracting, and it is incredibly painful. Obviously it's a lot more painful if you've got like extra tissue and stuff there, because you're just like, ugh. Anyway, so you can get this thing called MyUV, which I was looking into. It's like £70 though, I think, before shipping. And I was looking into that, but I knew that I was going through the process with the doctors to have a look into this. And what that does is it sends electrical pulses through the body to try and cancel out some of the pain. And I've heard really good reviews around that. No one wants to carry that. It's a leap. Yeah, I know. As well, just so you know, so you can see, The keyhole surgery, I wouldn't worry too much about it if it ever came to that, and I wouldn't use that as a reason to be absolutely terrified of the thing. Like, just as an example, you see this here? That's one of the scars. The other one is here. They're so tiny. That one here. And then I have one here. So they're really small. I don't really mind them. Obviously, you can get like scar cream and stuff if you wanted to. I can't. Yeah. So this was apparently, because they're so tiny, that suggests they went in with robot arms. I think this one must have been used for the camera. It's the biggest one, but by saying the biggest one, it's like that big. But they're so tiny, so it suggests they went in with robots. I was really surprised. And honestly, I was kind of like a little bit of pain. And I was convinced I'd been completely cut open. I was going to go on there, and it literally had like an X marks the spot treasure trail on my stomach. No, I don't know. I think they're so small. Like, I was at first, yeah, at first I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to have really horrible scars. And then when I saw them, I was like, oh, it's fine. Maybe yeah, cute, this world. Oh, whoa, it's crazy, right? Like inner space. I don't know what that means, I'm afraid. But some things that you can do, which do help. BBIJ, I think one of the things that helped me was I wanted to move away from using disposable feminine hygiene products. And so I don't like using period pads unless I'm traveling. That's the time I'm happy to use them. But one of the things that, hi, but how are you doing? But one of the things that I found was helpful for information is to get like the moon cup. If you have like the moon cup, honestly, they're a little bit traumatic to use at first. But one of the good things about using a moon cup is you can measure, it's not like shoving a measuring cup in there, but you can see like how much period you have, like how much blood you pass, because then you can use that information to be like, this is really, if you're like consistently like overflowing this cup, which you shouldn't be doing, then there's too much blood and you can use that as information. So I'm not saying use it all the time and that's all you use. Some people really do. I don't like it anymore. I used to use it, but that having that information of being like, I know how much blood I'm passing, like, because I used to use it all the time, and it was just good to know, because at least when the doctors would ask, I could be like, I was overflowing a cup every 2 hours, like that shouldn't be happening. And so then you can use that information. But generally, like with endometriosis as well, what they did was they stuck the camera inside me. The only thing I would say about the operation that I thought was really a bit like, which I didn't know, but I don't expect them to tell me everything, of like how they're going to do everything, was they actually inflate your stomach with CO2. Thank you for the hydrate, 1 second. They inflate your stomach with CO2, and then over the next few days after the operation, you have to pass the gas, and it's really uncomfortable. Imagine basically being extremely bloated for like 2 days. Because you've been pumped, you've been like pumped with CO2, and like every time you move, how long has it been since the operation? 5 weeks, about 5 weeks. And like every time you move, like it's sore, but yeah, after a few days, it's fine. But the first, yeah, like like, oh my God, it was horrible, and it felt like all the air was like rising up here, and yeah, like about 2 days I was really struggling with it. But yeah, I think honestly it was, well, I think part of me feels like I'm not trying to be like everything's worse for me. Anyway, but I went through the operation while I was on my period. So the day before I had the bad day where I was completely like knocked out cold. And I was like, ugh. So I also went through it while I was on my period. So part of me feels like I don't know if it would have been better if I wasn't. I don't know if they chose that day because they know that I was going to be on it. I don't know. But yeah, it's been, and I've got a follow-up appointment happening next week. So yeah, I mean, it has been recent. As you can see, like I'm okay. I'm fine. If surgery is needed again in the future, yeah, right. That's the thing. They'll just cut the same place open. I've basically got like a cut here mark. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it changes. Apparently the first few periods afterwards, they're not like fixed, so don't expect, and I thought they would be, and then I was like, what's happening? So apparently it can take a few months for it to be like sorted, etc. But I do recommend having a look into things like, because you could have a look, like I know I have a friend who has fibroids. My mum had fibroids. There's loads of things that can go go a little bit like funky in your uterus. So good to get it all checked out anyway, especially if you're having really uncomfortable periods. The way they described it to me was if it's interrupting your daily life, and it's stopping you from doing daily tasks, then it's bad and you need to go have a look at something because there's something wrong. So yeah, having a period is uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be like debilitating you to the point where you can't do daily tasks. And I was like, oh, I wish you had told me that like 10 years ago. But whatever, you know, like, so that's the rule that they classify it as. And I'm not saying that like you should, but like I know in some cases it's sometimes they don't believe you to do some stuff unless you like exaggerate a little bit. And I'm not recommending that you lie to your doctors, etc. But I know in some cases people don't take you seriously, especially as women. And they definitely don't take women of color, especially black women, as seriously when it comes to like periods, etc. as well. So I don't know if that applies to you or not. So, but apparently that's like the information that they base it on is, does it affect your daily life? But yeah, that's what happened. I was on tablets before. They did nothing for me, in my opinion. And the reason why they did nothing was because I thought they were stupid. Was like you need to take them before your period pain starts. Otherwise they won't work. But I didn't know when my period pain was going to start. So how the hell am I going to figure that out? And then I ended up just taking them when I felt like I was going to be sick anyway, because I couldn't even drink water, yet let alone swallow a pill that was like that big. And I was like, and then it did nothing. And I was better off trying to take paracetamol. So it just didn't work for me. And I made that point to them, and they were like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. But yeah. Great, definitely inquire about getting it looked into. You might as well, because you never know. And like ultrasounds and stuff, they're really easy to do. The ultrasound took like 15 minutes. It was really, really quick. And that shows quite a lot. They like look at it and they're like, oh yeah, look. And I'm looking at it like, I don't know what. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. But no, they really don't. And they're really nasty. So honestly, if anything, we all just need to remember that periods can be really nasty. And if anyone wants to fight me against it, because I know there's sometimes we come across these alpha males who like to think that they're nothing and that women should smile more. You try bleeding for a week and not dying, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like it either. Now try bleeding for a week, not dying, and actually having a worse period because it turns out you've got a disease. FMG says thank you. I inquired and had before. No worries, absolutely no worries at all. Hopefully it helps.